Hello, this is the PaynePoints of Interest Podcast. We want to tell the stories of people, their businesses, and the journey that they are on. Our purpose here is to gather a new perspective on starting, growing, maturing, and maintaining businesses of all sizes. So grab that cup of coffee, sit back, and join us as we start this conversation. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Sarah Harbuck, and with me today in studio is Amanda Skinner, co-hosting for Kristen Ellis. Hey Amanda.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you filling in. And our guest today is Trinity Scott with T3 Bookkeeping out of Nacogdoches, Texas. Hello, yes. Trinity.
Good morning.
How's it going with you?
Going okay.
Good. It's a Monday, so, we're all a little slow today.
Definitely.
Fun fact, you have been the only person out of everybody that we've recorded so far that actually contacted me, had all this bravery and was like, hey, Sarah, I've heard your podcast. I kind of want to be on it. And I was like, awesome. Somebody I didn't have to go fishing for. So thank you for being so brave and industrious there.
No problem.
Saying, hey, I want to talk to y'all. So
no problem.
Good deal. We were just discussing earlier off mic that I have been emailing people asking them, hey, come be on the podcast, tell us your story, and nothing. So it's kind of nice when somebody contacts me and says, hey, I want to do this with you guys. So Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your schedule.
No problem.
Bookkeeping, not the most exciting and glorious, glamorous job, but so very, very necessary for every small business out there.
Right.
So why don't you give us a little bit of your biography, your life story, a little background on you and how you got into this.
How far back do you want to go?
I mean,
no, I'm just teasing.
Well, we have about an hour,
right?
So.
I got an accounting degree, a bachelor's in accounting.
Okay.
I actually made a decision on what I was going to major in order to graduate about the time that Enron occurred.
Oh.
So they went from requiring a bachelor's degree to requiring a master's degree to sit for the CPA exam while I was in school.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I could have very easily switched to the track to do master's, but my husband was in the Navy at that time. He was in the Navy for the first 5 years we were married. And our whole plan had been for me to finish my degree so that I could graduate, get a job, and he could go to school as soon as he got out of the Navy. And due to my indecision as to what I actually wanted to do, I had to draw a line somewhere and say, okay, I'm going to graduate so we can move on with this plan. And So I chose not to do my master's, and I have not sat for the CPA. So I have a bachelor's in accounting, but in the state of Texas, interesting fact, you cannot call yourself an accountant unless you are a CPA.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So that's why it's T3 bookkeeping and not accounting.
Okay.
I graduated from college. I got a job for a little while, actually not really in accounting. He finished his school. He was actually able to get his bachelor's degree in 2 years post-Navy because SFA allowed him to use his the things he had learned in the Navy for college credit.
Oh, nice.
Which was, we actually had looked at moving to Austin when we got out, but it turned out that UT and ACC were not going to be that accommodating, and SFA was the best place for us to be, even after him spending 5 years saying he would never, ever, ever live in Nacogdoches ever again in his life. So
never say never.
Right?
It's funny how that works.
Yeah. So that was in 2003 that he got out of the Navy, and we moved back to Nacogdoches, and we've been there ever since. It just worked out that way. And so I worked a couple of jobs, and then we decided, you know, he was graduating from college. He had a full-time job lined up. We decided to start having kids. We've been married almost 7 years at that time. So we had our kids. We ended up having 4. And then when my youngest was, I think he was 3, I started looking around, trying to figure out, you know, what can I do to bring in some income without having to go work outside of the home full time, and having to put my kids in daycare full time, because especially in East Texas, that's just going to negate my income, you know.
Totally.
So I actually, so my sister has always been a go-getter. She's, you know, most of her career has been in a corporate type job and that type of thing. She was like, okay, there's this group on Facebook and it's called Being Boss, and you need to be in it, and you can look around and see if, you know, you can get a job or whatever. Because I figured I could do, like, you know, I had a college degree. I knew how to use, you know, Microsoft Word, Excel, all of that. I could do something for somebody, you know, just get paid hourly or whatever. And so there was a woman looking for, she was actually advertising for a virtual assistant, and I sent her my resume thinking I could do this, you know, and she ended up going with somebody local for that job, but she did see on my resume that I had an accounting degree, and that's what she needed help with, was her bookkeeping. And so she reached out to me and said, okay, I'm going to hire this other person for this job, but can you do this? And it turned out what she was doing was using a program called Xero with an X, Xero, to do her bookkeeping for her business. And she had a pretty cool business. I'll tell you all about that later if you want to hear about it. She was in Austin, and she took the chance on me. I said, I've never heard of Xero, but if you give me a minute, I'll see what I can do. So she took the chance on me and let me look it up and figure it out. And I got certified as a Xero advisor and took over her bookkeeping. And the nature of her job is not to sit in an office and do bookkeeping, of course.
Right.
So she was kind of behind. So I caught her all up, and I've been doing her bookkeeping ever since. That was 4 years ago.
Oh, wow. So that was kind of the beginning.
Yeah, that was the beginning. So I realized in that experience and taking the course with Xero and becoming a certified advisor that this was a job. I mean, it's not just a job. It's a business that I can do from my home or from my home office and kind of make my own schedule and still be at home with my kids and, you know, be able to leave at 3 o'clock and go pick everybody up from school and all of that stuff. And so I got to a place with her. I formed my business officially. I did a DBA. I got a business account, you know, did all the basic stuff, set up my website, and then she's referred me a few times. I've found other clients different ways, and I have about 8 clients or so now, and I'm still working on it. There are things that I'm still learning about having my own business, but it's worked out really well. And it's just crazy that when I was in school for my degree, there was, like, this wasn't even something that you could do at that time because all of the systems weren't in place.
Yeah.
It really wasn't a thing then.
Yeah.
And then, 14 years later, or however long it wasn't that long. It was like 11 years. This was a whole new, not niche, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Specialty, maybe?
Yeah, specialty that you could do in this way.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go to a traditional accounting firm 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever, and sit in an office all day.
How long did it take you to get certified with Xero?
Well, actually, the certification is not that intense. It probably took me a couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
Just because I was, dealing with my kids and my home and everything, and I had to, shut the door and be like, I've got to focus on this, know. So, it really, if somebody else is looking to get into it and they can focus on it, it might only take them a couple of days to really do it if they know what they're doing.
Right.
It is definitely a major advantage to have an accounting degree, because obviously the underlying stuff. Being a certified advisor is really about learning the software and how to help your clients use it. It's not so much about the accounting. So
Had you used like QuickBooks and other accounting software, or is Xero really the first one?
Yeah, I had used Microsoft Money for my personal finances.
Okay.
But I actually had no experience with QuickBooks, even though that is the major, that's the one that everybody knows.
Well, I always just did spreadsheets.
Right, right.
Not very fancy.
I don't do numbers.
Yeah, I have a friend.
Period.
You leave that to your husband, Jason, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. I have a friend who was running her entire business, including payroll, in Excel spreadsheets, and I was like, you need to let me put you on Xero. It's like, it'll be so much easier. And she was like, oh yes, thank you so much for introducing me to this, Yeah,
I mean, I think we think it's easier doing it in spreadsheets, but it probably, when there's a software specifically developed for it, it's a lot easier. It's just that learning hump that you kind of have to go through, hard teaching
it's
an old dog new tricks is kind of...
Which is why we hire...
This is why we hire
a
professionals.
bookkeeper.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, you were going to school for accounting,
Mm-hmm.
and, then you became a mother, and you said that it was kind of necessary for you to have a job where you could be flexible, which I think is the struggle for a lot of moms, especially now, more than ever. Maybe not 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but the whole, I think,
COVID
face of the world has sort of changed in the last few months.
And it has.
I think a lot of people are debating, are we going to send our kids back to school? Are we going back to work in the office now? And so, I think maybe not knowing it, you were kind of ahead of the curve there.
Yeah.
Having a job at home.
Definitely, yeah.
That you could be more flexible with, It's a challenging thing when you have small kids, as we've all had to live this reality and have small children, run a business, and do all the regular mom things. So, it's always, you're juggling many hats at one time. And so, as you said, well, you only have 8 clients and you're still kind of working on things. I feel like that's kind of a lot.
Right.
You got all the things you got going on.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
The oldest is 14 and the youngest is 7. So they're 14, 12, 9, and 7.
Yeah. Do they go to school?
They do, and they will go back to school. That's the question everybody's asking now. Are you going to send them back or not? But yes, I will. I will send them to school. That's my plan right now. So
they go to an academicious, or
they actually? So the youngest 2 go to the SFA charter school.
Okay.
And the older 2 went through there, but they only go to 5th grade. So they're now actually out in Garrison because my husband wanted them to be in a smaller school.
That's probably given what's going on, that's even better.
Yeah.
I can't imagine with the bigger schools around here how they're going to combat that safety issue.
Yeah.
With being social distancing and all the things. So you wouldn't consider homeschooling?
I would, but I mean,
you can teach them a lot of math.
Right. I'm pretty well rounded. It's not that I don't have the confidence in my ability to do it. Yeah. But it's not the knowledge, it's the structure and the scheduling and the keeping them on task and that type of thing.
It's one thing to keep yourself on task. It's quite another to try to get other people to be motivated to do the same.
So
when you were thinking about, this woman hired you to do her bookkeeping, and you're like, okay, I can turn this into a business, a viable business. Was there a lot of planning that you did? I mean, you said you just went out and got a DBA and a business account, which I think most of us that's what we do.
Right.
And then the thinking and the planning kind of comes
Yes.
secondary.
Definitely, yeah.
Was that kind of your experience as well?
It was, yeah, because I did not set out to create a business. You know, I set out to get a job, and then I realized, you know, that it could be a business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So one of the things when you're a mom and you've got, you know, all that going on, you know, and you're running your own business, and maybe that wasn't something you set out to do, but that's what you're doing now.
Right.
What are some of the bigger struggles or obstacles that you've had to face and sort of overcome in all that?
A lot of it is time management, and not like I'm still working on that too, but to be, you know, to have my Google Calendar and schedule things out so that if I put on my calendar that I'm going to work on this particular client at this time, like, that's kind of a flexible thing, you know? I mean, I have to get the work done for my clients, but it's, you know, I could do that at
Anytime.
10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever. But I also know that I'm going to have to be up early with the kids to take them to school or whatever. And so I've got to get some sleep at some point. Right. So it's kind of a lot of it is self-discipline, trying to make that schedule work. And, you know, it's like you have to kind of trick your brain into realizing that that's something you have to do at that time. I
think that's the struggle for a lot of people who work at home, who are used to more of an office setting.
Right.
Because they're like, okay, I have to go to work. But
Yes.
when your work is at home, there is, for some people, I think, a tendency to kind of, well, I can do that later, or
I need to go do the laundry.
Exactly.
I need to clean that mess over there.
Yeah.
You know, you always put it off for something else. And so the struggle is sitting down and doing the actual work you have to do, because you see all the other things.
Yes.
So that's why, you know, when they tell people who work in a job somewhere, you know, make sure that you just leave work at work. Well, when you work at home,
it is
do you have like a separate little office that you can kind of just close it away and
I
and
do
leave work?
now. Yeah. My part of the reason I started my business was because we were wanting to build a house, and or at least move. We ended up deciding that building a house was the best reason, because we were in a 3-2 with 4 kids, and it was just under 1,300 square feet. You know, we were pretty packed in there. So
So you made it a priority to build an office.
Right.
When you built your house.
When we first started planning, it was actually a storage room off the garage, but we modified our plans as I started my business and we built the house, so it had an entrance not from the garage, from the house, and it is not a storage room, it is my office.
That's
so
nice.
yeah,
because you can kind of just shut the work away, or when you're like, I'm going in here, I'm going to be intentional, I'm going to do the work that when this door's shut, mommy is working.
Yes.
And y'all need to
exactly
do your own thing over here. I've actually been pretty good at being self-disciplined, so that was never an issue for me, but I have talked to a lot of people where that's a thing. I could do online school. In fact, I had my kids young while I was in college.
Right.
And so I actually did a lot of, when they were first, and this is really dating me, in the early 2000s, when they first started offering online classes, and it was very limited.
Right.
And I was taking them, and people were like, I don't know how you do that. I can't do it. And I was like,
yeah,
sometimes you don't have a choice. You just have to do it.
Yes.
So it's kind of like the work. I need to get paid this week, so I'm going to go in here and spend however many hours I need in this office and do my thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think you're not alone in the whole time management issue.
Right.
Especially now. I people who've always worked a corporate job or worked in the office, and I see them on Facebook commenting, having to be at home working, like, oh my gosh, this is such a weird transition, because I'm so used to getting up and having this routine and doing these things and going to work and doing my work and then coming home, and then that's all been like blown out of the water. And so they're kind of like, I don't know how to do a new schedule here. It's been a weird shift.
And like you said, they're having a hard time, which I still do, like shutting it off. I have to just say, okay, I'm not going to work on the weekend because my husband's home, my kids, there's other things we can do on the weekends.
But we've talked about that.
So,
how, when you own a business, you're just, You're
Right.
always thinking.
Always.
Yes.
You're always,
always
you know,
work.
you were
Yes.
telling the story during your podcast how you guys would sit in bed at night before you went to sleep and talk about clients you had and like, oh, we need to do these exercises with so and so because I feel like that'll really, you know,
Yeah,
you're
right.
just
it's
constantly,
constant.
Yeah.
It's constant.
Yeah.
yeah,
For
and
sure.
it's really hard. I think when it's your
Yes.
blood, sweat, and tears going into this business, you're constantly on, and that's the challenge I think for every business owner is to shut it down
When
a little bit.
when I was in college in San Diego while James was in the Navy, I worked for a small business that was owned by a husband and wife. And he said, what did he say? Yes, when you're a business owner, you can decide to work half days, but you have to decide which 12 hours you want that to be. So,
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's truth in that.
Right?
Yeah, because you think, oh, the 8 to 5 job and the half a day. No, it's 12 hours. It's probably going to be 12 hours.
Yep.
So, in time management being a struggle for you, would you say that your business has taught you to be more mindful of how you spend your time, or is there some other lesson that you've learned in running your own business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working on it, but yes, that is one of the big takeaways from owning my own business. I have to be intentional. I have to create a schedule and stick to it, and that's hard too because which I think I need to be more proactive about setting boundaries. But like, my parents would call or my husband would call and be like, can you go do this? Or can you, and I'm like, well, I kind of had stuff planned today. I needed to work on this client, but okay, or my kids, we've all got doctor's appointments and different things. And the doctor's like, well, I can't see him for 3 months unless you come at this time, and what can you do about that? So it's kind of, it's definitely a balancing act,
Yeah. That's
So-
always a challenge, trying to fit all the life stuff in
Yes.
and work and yeah. One of the things I was curious about that's not a question we typically ask, but it's very specific to your business.
Right.
You were talking earlier on during your kind of biography about you have to have a master's degree to have a CPA, being an accountant, and you're just
Yes.
a bookkeeper. What are the main differences? Can you tell our listeners what would be the main difference there? Like, you can't do people's taxes necessarily, or can you?
I could actually
really
do
just,
people's.
just summing it down to
Right.
the most basic thing.
Right.
Sorry.
I choose not to do taxes
Yeah.
at the moment. I don't feel confident enough in my experience with taxes because there's a lot to that to really be. I mean, if you have somebody who has a very basic, you have a W-2, maybe a 1099, it's not that big of a deal.
Right, but when you have partnerships.
But when you have partnerships and you have
multiple
businesses or properties or that type of thing, that takes a lot more to not confidently but
thoroughly do the job and
Right.
get them the best
right to
return on their
on their investment.
Yeah.
Because what they're needing is somebody who knows the tax code inside and out, who can advise them on the best ways to save money, not illegally save money, but legally use the codes to your advantage. And I know some of that, and I can advise my clients on some basic good business practices that
will benefit them come tax time.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, but you need to talk to a CPA, and you need to have a CPA or an EA do your taxes. So
Bookkeepers don't typically do taxes necessarily unless they're
not
gone through
usually unless
certification
they
process.
unless they have. There's actually no, like, you can apply for a PTIN, which is a preparer's tax identification number through the IRS, and there aren't a lot of restrictions on that. So, like, the people who do taxes pro bono at the library for older people and stuff like that, they don't necessarily have any real specific training in taxes.
Oh, wow.
I think they do. Yeah,
That's interesting.
Oh, goodness.
I think they do like a
basic.
a small course that they put them through.
Yeah.
And then there's like people who are preparers at like H&R Block or Jackson Hewitt or places like that. They have a course that it's like 6 weeks or something, and you can get certified through them to do taxes. But they don't. It's not. I mean, they don't have to have any kind of background in accounting or anything.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
didn't know that
there's
either.
not
That's
a lot of
interesting.
restriction on tax preparers.
And that's
really.
kind of like a thing you would assume would
Yeah.
have a lot of restrictions.
There is, yeah. I mean, you would assume
gosh.
that would be a
Years.
good idea. Yeah.
Like you would need a degree.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right.
okay, to be fair, I did our taxes for a long time when we were first married.
Right.
Because, we had like a W-2 or a 1099, like you said. There was
Right.
not anything happening. It was like so basic.
Yeah.
I think that first year we were married, we both filled out like a 1040 easy or something. It was,
Right.
ridiculous. As things, went on and we opened businesses that were no longer just sole proprietorships, it was
Right.
like, I don't know what
I'm gonna need
Yeah.
some help.
well, we gotta hire somebody
That's-
because
yeah.
we're gonna be in so much trouble. if we
Exactly.
don't.
Exactly.
So that's why I just assumed you had to, for obviously, I watched my dad and my stepmom, growing up doing their taxes themselves because it wasn't. My dad worked for somebody else. He just had a W-2, and they didn't have any like weird
Right.
like investment things or property
Yeah.
that they owned or businesses. So I was just like, yeah, it's just something everybody did by themselves. But then as I got older and talked to more people and had more, experience in the business world, I was like, no, almost everybody has a CPA or somebody who does their taxes for them. And I was just like, really? Wow, that's
Yeah.
weird. And then
And
we
it's-
get to that point in life and it was like, yeah, now I see why they had to
Yeah.
hire somebody
I'm
else.
so bad. I never even did the basic. It's like don't give me any numbers.
Right.
For sure, don't let me be responsible for
Yeah.
submitting that to the IRS.
Right. And recording all the things.
We are going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is like I'm jumping around. Sorry. I'm probably
That's
not
okay.
letting you finish your conversation, your answer here, but I'm curious as to what are some bigger mistakes that you see whenever you take on a client that they've been making in their bookkeeping that is something everybody needs to kind of keep up with?
Doubling your income is a big one. If they have like an app or some type, or just even, so if you use, Xero or QuickBooks Online to do your bookkeeping and you have invoices that you send out to clients and then you record the payment to those invoices, but then when you reconcile your books, you don't match up your payments with your deposits when you reconcile, you can actually double record your income. And so then when you go to do your taxes, it looks like you made twice as much money as you did, and you're paying twice as much in taxes. And I've seen that a few times.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, they're recording their deposit and then they're recording the invoice they
Right.
got paid for.
Exactly.
Which is one and the same for the
Exactly. Exactly.
most part. Okay.
Because they're not understanding the concept of this is what reconciliation is supposed to be. Especially these days with bank feeds, with an automated cloud accounting, which is what Xero and QBO are.
Yeah.
People don't understand that the bank feed is just like taking your statement every month and reconciling against it. They think, I need to record these things that are coming in the bank feed as a deposit or as a, and they don't understand how the software functions, and they will double record their income. And then I've seen, like, if you have an app that you use, I had a lady recently that I was just helping her DIY some stuff. She had Square set up, so she's a massage therapist, and so she has Square set up, but she also has Acuity scheduling set up to schedule her appointments. And she had Square and Acuity connected, and then she had Acuity and Xero connected, and then she had Square and Xero connected. So she was double recording her income also in several instances, you know, because she was getting the integrations are amazing, but if you don't understand what you're doing with them, you can very easily double record things.
So if you are doing everything online like that, where you've got a scheduler and you have a invoicing system like Square,
right,
or point of sale system, I guess is really what that should be called, and then you have like a QuickBooks or a Xero or something that you're doing your accounting through, what is the best way to connect them, or should they connect them at all and do each one? Because while you said integration is great, but then you have this issue that comes up. So I'm curious for myself, like how should I do that if I set that up? Or
you hire Trinity.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably just better. We always recommend hire a professional whenever necessary. But for the people out here who are struggling financially because of what's going on and they can't necessarily spend the extra money right now, what would you recommend?
Well, you just have to be mindful of those connections and exactly what they're doing. Like, I mean, Acuity, you know, you can go in, you can connect all the different things, and I always, like, even when I'm working with a client and I've worked with these apps before, I like to kind of take a step back and think through it in a logical way, like not just, I can't explain it well. Just take a step back and realize exactly what is happening, you know.
Look at the context.
Right.
And not just the face value, maybe.
Right. And so if you have Square and you're invoicing out of Square and you have it connected to Xero, realize that that's bringing income in. And then if you have Acuity and you also have that connected to Xero, then you're also going to bring in, if it's the same appointments, you know, you're also bringing in that income that way. So you just have to be really mindful of what it is you're actually doing and not just think, oh, this integration is great, I'm just going to set it up and forget about it, you know, and just let it run.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with so many people. They use the automation and think, I never have to do anything again.
Right,
just
exactly.
Like, whoops. I ran into that last week, actually, with our social media scheduler.
Right.
And something happened, and it didn't start. It was not posting certain things. And so I was like, wait, what? Oh, okay, I need to check on this a little bit more frequently because this did not work out the way I wanted it to.
Right.
Now, that's something that can be fixed very easily. But when it comes to your money,
right,
you know.
And it can be fixed, but you just don't want to get to the end of the year, get to April 1st and be like,
oh, no.
You know, what's going on before I go to my CPA and spend, you know, this money that, you know, for them to do my taxes. And then if they don't look closely enough, if they assume that you've got a bookkeeper, if you've got a bookkeeper or you know what you're doing, you know, and don't look at your books closely enough, especially if they're like, so as I said, QuickBooks is the most popular, most known program. So if you're using Xero, a lot of times the CPA will not know Xero. So they're just like, well, send me a P&L or send me a income statement, balance sheet. And so if they simply look at that and don't dig into the underlying numbers, if you're not paying them for bookkeeping, but you're paying them just to do your tax return, that's where you can run into some problems.
Gotcha.
So.
Not enough info and them not knowing how to work the system, and then you know, we've had a guy on our podcast before. His name is Dave Sevier, and he helps people with money management issues. And his big thing is you shouldn't just look at your profit and loss. You should look at what your capital is and you know, the income you have coming in and what your operating budget is. You know, there's so many different things. People just assume P&L, that's going to give them all their info, and that's not necessarily true. No. As you just illustrated with a CPA doing taxes, they're going to look at that, and that may not be the whole story. Which, you know, I think that trips up a lot of people. Come tax time is they're looking at just that one thing, and that's not necessarily, because, you know, we've all forgotten to record an expense or a bill or a deposit or something.
Or a few.
Or like your payment processing fees. That's a big one too.
People forget about that.
Yeah, you don't realize that. If you don't realize that's an expense that you can write off, and especially if you're recording your gross income and not net of those fees, you're overstating your income right there. So
people do forget, and nowadays, you know, everybody does everything online. I mean, I haven't used cash. Okay, I take it back. When I was in Cabo, I used cash. It was the first time I used cash in a long time. But like most of the time, I just use a card because I feel like it tracks my money better than. Although there's the argument say, well, if you use cash and then you run out, then you budgeted yourself.
Definitely.
But I like to see where the money's going versus just handing out cash and then keeping receipts. If I can go back and look at a statement of some kind, and then I can see that a lot better. In my mind, works that way. Some people
That's how I am too.
Using cash. I like the card. I like to be able to track it.
My cash goes way too fast.
Yeah, I'll spend it way quicker, believe it or not.
Burns a hole in my pocket.
Yeah, which is weird. It's a weird psychology there because for me, if I'm using a card to pay for it, I'm actually a lot more mindful, which you think, well, if you're using a credit card and it has this limit, but for whatever reason, it's like, well, I'm going to have to pay something on that, you know, or if I was the vendor taking the money, you know, especially if it was, you know, if I had a bride that was like, I'll pay the entire amount right now. And I'm like, oh, great. That's going to take out a lot of fees. And I know it adds up at the end of the day, but it's like, if you're going to pay me $4,800 and they're going to take out that entire fee right then. And so it's nice to be able to deduct that as an actual expense because, you know, Square or any of those point of sale systems are going to be charging you PayPal, even if you use PayPal. You know, use some kind of a fee. And that was one of the things I was talking to another photographer and they didn't realize you could do that. And I was like,
that's
spending,
a major
especially how much money
expense.
You're bringing in via credit cards. Yeah, you should be deducting that. Yes, because that is a huge chunk of change at the end of the day.
That's how they make their money. That's why they're, you know, multi-million-dollar
They're not
businesses.
doing it for free. They're not like, you know, this is out of the goodness of our hearts. We're having this, we made this system. You know, everybody's trying to make money.
Yes.
So, how is it for your business, Amanda? How do y'all do your books and invoicing, I guess, you know, when clients want to pay? Do they have an online option?
Yeah, we have an online option. We use MindBody.
Okay.
And I have an accountant who does all of that stuff for me, looks at it at the end and all that good stuff. I never have to do anything with it. She's perfect.
I'm sure your clients say that about you, right? I never have to look at this. Thank goodness somebody else is taking care of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason is he is adamant daily looking at reports and, you know, all that good stuff, but as far as numbers, not me. But yes, we use a system.
Yeah. I think if you're going to be successful and know where your money is coming from, you should have some way of tracking it.
For sure.
The outgoing and the incoming.
And like I said, we look at those reports, daily.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Is that another thing you find, that people aren't looking at or reconciling their books every day or every week?
Yes.
Quick enough?
Definitely. I
mean, obviously, if they hired you, you're doing that for them. But like, if you've taken over an account for somebody and they haven't updated in 3 months, and you're like, okay.
Usually, you know, it's 3 months or longer when I get a new client or I get a cleanup job.
Cleanup
job. Those are very frequent, you know. That is a big part of the industry as a bookkeeper or an accountant.
They'll hire you and say, I need you to clean this up, but maybe not keep you on permanently, but like, I need something fixed here.
Right.
It's like, hey, you just hired me permanently this week.
Exactly.
Happen.
You're actually going to spend more money in the long run by doing that, because you're going to charge a bigger fee to sit and reconcile some of these books for 6 months.
Well, and it's going to be all up front, because, you know, I'm going to charge you what I would have charged you monthly to do it for, you know, 6 months, and it's going to be all in one big chunk.
Yeah.
So
they're actually better off paying a monthly fee to have you do it
on a ongoing
regular
basis.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I've heard from other people, not just on the podcast, but in other people we've talked to, or just in my life experience, like not keeping their bookkeeping up to par is what gets them into trouble.
Yes.
So, that's a struggle for a lot of people who are not numbered oriented. Yeah. I'm getting this is the time. This is what we need to do. Well, before we wrap up, I would like to know what you know, as a mom, you know, with 4 kids, very busy for you, what advice would you have for somebody who's starting a business that maybe didn't think they were going to be running a business?
Right.
Since that's been your life story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because of my accounting degree, I knew the basics of what I needed to do to be in compliance with regulations, with laws, with sales taxes and things like that. If you don't have any background in that and you don't have any idea, do seek the help of a professional. I mean, I can help you set up a business, to point out, as somebody who's done it, but also, that's what I do is I help my clients stay in compliance with things like sales taxes and knowing what's the difference between an LLC and an S Corp. Can you be both an LLC and an S Corp at the same time?
Right.
The answer is yes. If you're an LLC, are you an S Corp? No, not necessarily. Did you know that if you're an S Corp, you do have to pay yourself payroll? The IRS does expect that. So, there's things like that when you're starting out a business that
not the general layperson would actually know.
Right. Things that you would never think of until you get in that situation.
Yeah.
So, and I've helped friends out that were, kind of DIYing things, and I was like, okay, well, you're selling a product, so you have to apply for a sales tax certificate and pay sales tax when you sell things. Well, they'll apply for a certificate and then their business won't go as well, so they don't actually sell anything for a while, but they don't realize they have to still file a 0 return. And then they'll get a notice in the mail saying, you owe us $1,500. And I'm like, okay, we can fix this. Don't panic. It's not that bad. But we do have to do something about it, or it's just going to, sit up.
That just happened to a couple of friends of mine.
Really?
That started an online business. They were like, what is that? I mean, they
freaked out.
It was.
I was
actually
at the gym.
They're at the gym on the phone, like, hold on, I got to call this. Wait,
right.
Look.
Yeah. Actually just happened to a client of mine because she didn't talk to me. Like, I didn't know that she had decided to branch out into another avenue of income. And so she had applied for her sales tax certificate and got this huge bill from the state comptroller's office, and she was finally called me and freaking out, saying, what do I do about this? They say I owe you like $2,500 or whatever, and so we fixed it. But
it's always those little bitty things that you think aren't gonna trip you up, and it's always that. It's lacking in like not having, being ignorant in something. And I don't say that in a derogatory way, just not knowing I'm supposed to do this, because they don't offer how to start a business 101 anywhere.
Right.
Like, you basically just have to learn by experience. So all that bookkeeping, accounting stuff, I think, is a good advice for anybody starting a business, because that's really the foundation of how you're going to make your money, and starting that off right is going to help you in the long run rather than hurt you. So,
definitely.
What does the future of T3 Bookkeeping look like for you?
Just working on the marketing, still trying to, get a few more clients, just grow a little bit. I don't think I'll ever have a huge business, but if I can have, a small number of clients and serve them well and make a little bit of money that helps support my family, that's my goal.
That's good enough.
That's something that caught my eye whenever I was looking at your website. Is that it's, we're all in business to make money.
Right.
That's why we do what we do. We need to make money, but you love each and every one of your clients.
Yeah, most of them become like family. Right. So, to me, they're more like friends than clients. So,
So you're looking out for their best interest, which I feel
Right.
like is
Yes.
for me personally, that's what I would look for in somebody who's going to be like, okay, if something happens, this
Right.
person's just as invested as I am
Yeah.
to help fix it.
Not just some cold, or some
Corporation.
warm body
Yeah.
sitting in an office just
Yes.
Looking at numbers.
punching numbers,
Yeah.
but you actually care that your clients
Exactly.
succeed. And that's something
Yeah.
that caught me, because being a business owner myself, that's something that I hold near and dear. Is
Right.
I love and care for each and every one of my clients. I invest in their health and their future.
Right.
And that caught my eye with yours. And so I wanted to give you props on that, because
Yeah. Totally.
that's something that you don't think about when you're thinking about a bookkeeper or an accountant.
Right.
You
know,
do kind of tend to think of them as just pencil pusher, numbers
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
don't really have a heart or a soul.
Yeah,
Right.
and
That sounds terrible.
That does
but, like,
sound
for real.
terrible, but it is
It's a
for real.
stereotype.
And
Sorry,
yeah.
sadly.
like my accountant she was a friend before, before we
Right.
hired her as an accountant, and like I said, that's just something that stuck out to me, because if you're a new business and you're looking to, that's something you need to look for. You need to look for that bookkeeper or that accountant that has your best interest at
Definitely.
heart. And so
It's going to be the foundation of your business.
For sure.
Your
Yeah.
money. I
Yes.
mean, that's,
Yeah.
you can have great customer service, you can have a great product, but if you don't have your numbers straight, you're going to have problems later on. So
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
bookkeeping is where you start and you go from there.
Yes.
Well, Trinity, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the web or social media, and if they need to call you, all that information?
I tried to make it as uncomplicated as possible. Our website is www.t3bookkeeping.com.
Good deal.
Bookkeeping is BOOKKEE, all one word. So ING, of course, but two O's, two K's, two E's, all in a row.
Yeah.
And
Just Google bookkeeping if you don't know how to spell it.
right. So, and then I am on Facebook as T3 Bookkeeping, and on Twitter at T3 Bookkeeping. My email is trinity@t3bookkeeping.com, and my phone number is 936-554-2995, and any of those ways works. I do have I do use Acuity scheduling and have that set up through my website. Or like, even if you wanted to text me, I could send you a link to my scheduling calendar. So
Some people don't like to talk on the phone.
Yeah,
so,
some people
just text
A
me.
lot of people
don't.
do not
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
It's bizarre.
Well, that's
So-
good. Good deal. That's so you guys heard it. You can know where to contact Trinity if you need some bookkeeping, and I highly recommend that you do, because that's like we said, foundation of every business.
Right.
Well, thanks guys for being here today. I think that's gonna wrap us up. We really enjoyed hearing from you and learning all about the non-glamorous world of bookkeeping, but the necessary world of
Right.
bookkeeping.
Exactly.
So you guys, we hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and we wanna have you on. So you should contact us. Our website is PaynePoints.com. You can find us on social media at PaynePoints. And you guys go out and have a great Monday. Thanks, ladies, for having you here or being here, not having you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's Monday, guys. My words are hard. But
Yes.
yeah, anyway, y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.